This is Beyond Business. Witness the real lives of Cranbrook's female entrepreneurs as they candidly tell their stories, their experiences, and their struggles in raw, revealing conversations. Now, I'm very excited to be introducing Billi-Jo Conroy to you all today. She is the Bill behind Blazing Bill's Fermented hot sauce. And her hot sauce, she's been making these for the last 3 years, and her business is still in its infancy, but there are great things to come. So I'm so excited to be hearing about your story, because being an entrepreneur is relatively new for you. Mm-hmm. You are kind of just getting into it, but it's been a very intense 3 years for you. So let's back up a little bit, because let's talk about how you even got into making your own hot sauce and where Blazing Bill's came from.
I ordered a lot of artisan hot sauces online, and then my husband said I was spending a fortune on shipping, so bought me a fermenting crock, and I started making my own. I had a couple friends come over for dinner one night, and they thought maybe I should try selling it. And that's kind of how it started.
You know, it's funny that it started out that way, because there's so many entrepreneurs that start their business that way. They have an interest and they just go for it.
Yeah.
So you've always been a person who enjoys hot sauce.
Yes.
And did you ever think you could make it before? Like
no.
Before shipping was expensive? Did it even cross your mind that this is something that maybe you should investigate to see if you could do on your own?
No.
So it was just the fact that shipping was so costly.
Yeah. Well, the shipping is almost more than the hot sauce. So, yeah, John was like, you need to not order any more hot sauce. And then I started making my own.
So where did the idea for the recipes come from? Like, were you just inspired?
Right out of my head. My first batch, I think I made 40 bottles. And John was like, what if it's not good? And it was.
But it was good.
Yeah. I think about the recipes for a long time before I make them.
Okay.
Yeah, but there is no rhyme or reason to why I put the ingredients I do in them.
Well, let's just talk about that creative piece, because creating recipes is a very creative process. Mm-hmm. So have you always been a creative? Have you always been making things from scratch, or is this...
I live in a town and I have few friends, so I do a lot of cooking. I actually have a lot of friends in the town where I live, but living out of town, and I cook all my meals, and then I like quilting and crafting and pretty much everything.
So being creative is nothing new for you.
No.
It's always been something that you've done and a way that you've kept yourself busy.
Yeah.
So creating hot sauce was just a natural progression of the life
that
you've been living.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Well, and recipe creation is fun, mm-hmm. because you can just go for it in your kitchen. And if it doesn't work out, well,
right?
There's not a lot of loss. I mean, well, maybe 40 bottles of ingredients. That maybe it was considerable. It sounds like your husband, John, was like, whoa, 40 bottles. Is this even good? Now, was that the same batch that you had given to friends that when they came for dinner? Was that the same type of hot sauce?
That was the spicy dill pickle one.
Okay.
That was the first one.
And that is the signature one that you guys have, or
kind of. It's a favorite, way? Yeah.
Yeah. So since then, you've continued to make new recipes, and you started selling your hot sauce. So this is kind of something that you're doing on the side initially.
Yeah.
So at what stage did this feel like, I want this to be more than a hobby? Or how did that transition for you?
Well, when we started building the commercial kitchen, it was kind of like, now this is what you're doing.
Right.
I remember John saying, are you sure you want to do this, Bill? But the kitchen was already built. And I was like, well, I guess so.
Yeah. Because the reason why you were telling me this the other day when we met for the first time, that you had looked at just renting commercial space that you could utilize in order to make your hot sauce so that you can sell it. Because there's definitely, when you get into the food business, there's regulations. Like, you can't, not just anybody can make stuff in their kitchen and sell it, right? They want to know that certain health standards have been met. So when you first were looking at it, you were just looking to rent space.
Yeah.
And then that wasn't available to you.
No. So my husband just thought, well, we'll just build a kitchen in the back of our shop. And there's a kitchen guy that kind of lives down the road from us, so he builds kitchens and restaurants. So he came up and looked at it and helped us plan it out, and John built the whole thing.
Talk about support, hey?
Yeah.
From the get-go?
Yeah.
Like, I'm thinking about some of the ideas that I've had and suggested to my husband, and I mean, for John to come in and be like, yeah, like, we'll do it, sure. And all of a sudden you have a commercial kitchen. Like, he's like 100% behind you doing this thing. And I think I just heard you say, you're like, oh, I guess we're doing it now. I guess I'm doing this.
Well, I thought, okay, I'll do it until my boy starts kindergarten, and he was 2 at the time. So that gave me 3 years to kind of pay off the kitchen.
Right.
And then maybe get a job. And he's in grade 1 now, so I'm still doing it.
And do you still like it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's something about being able to create something and share a passion with others. And it's yours.
Yeah.
Because it's not just the product that you are selling, you created.
Yeah.
Like, that is a pretty incredible, I think that would be a pretty incredible feeling.
Well, yeah, and I now have, like, return customers and, like, people recommending my stuff, so and I sell it by, like, the liter bag to different restaurants. And
A liter bag.
Yeah.
Because they put it right into their recipes that they're serving.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you've really started to build a client base.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you first started doing Blazing Bills, you were still working on the side, or were you just primarily home with your kids?
Well, I worked at supported childcare for 17 years, and then when I had my kids, I decided to be a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
And I went back to work when Otto was about 4 months old in a daycare at the college. And then it was just, I didn't have patience for my own kids at the end of the day, so I thought, I'm really going to be a stay-at-home mom now, so I started staying home and built my own business.
I think that's such a big piece that I hear a lot of women say is they don't want their work to erode so much of their energy that when they get home they have nothing left for the reason, like, because the kids are who you're working for.
Oh yeah. Well, and my husband worked up north, so he wasn't home in the evenings.
So it was all you.
Yeah.
When he was on shift,
yeah,
you were the only parent support for your
Yeah.
kids. So you really need the energy to be present and to be there.
Yeah, and my kids are busy, so I had to stay busy with them.
So Blazing Bills became a way for you to be able to be there.
Yeah.
And your husband was on board. Sounds like maybe even a little bit ahead of you.
Yeah.
Like, all of a sudden there's a kitchen in the backyard.
Right? Yeah.
That's incredible. Like, talk about fostering that dream.
Yeah.
And seeing what that could mean for you and for your family.
Mhm.
Okay, so talk to me about those early days in the business. Because you started with a lot of markets. Well, you started with friends, obviously.
Yeah, I started with friends and then selling online, and then just like on Facebook Marketplace. And then when the health inspector said I had to have the commercial kitchen, I kind of stopped production, and we built the kitchen. And then I did my first market in Fernie at the end of September in 2021.
Okay.
And I think I sold like 100 bottles at that one market in 3 hours, and it was like, so then I liked it.
You're like,
Then I was like, I'm going to sign up for every market. So then I kind of did that for a really long time.
It felt like it had legs. Like,
Yeah.
this business could be something. This could actually provide income, that we could actually pay back the kitchen. that
Yes,
we bought.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you were full on into markets.
Mm-hmm. And it's in the back of my shop, so I have like I can get pallets dropped off of the bottles and stuff, and Cisco delivers some ingredients, and then I source a bunch of ingredients from Creston, and
Right.
yeah.
So it was feeling doable.
Yeah.
And now it's turning into a full-on business.
Mm-hmm.
so you're going to markets, you're making your hot sauce, you're
Yeah.
creating new recipes, and it's going relatively smoothly.
Yeah. I took a couple accounting courses, and then I hired a bookkeeper. Because
You're
I'm
like,
not, yeah.
I took the accounting courses to realize I wanted nothing to do with
Yes,
the books.
exactly.
Is that it?
Yeah. So I have a bookkeeper now who helps me with that side stuff, but I pretty much do everything else.
Yeah. Well, and was there any element of the business where you felt like, oh, I don't know if I can do this, or did you even think about that?
No,
No. How come? Like you just felt like you could do it, so you just did it?
I felt like it was going to remain like a hobby and something like easy for me to do. And I actually have another stay-at-home mom who lives in Moye, and she comes over and helps me in the kitchen, and sometimes will do markets for me.
Right. So there's another person that comes alongside.
Yeah.
And now you have help making the sauce or bottling stuff
Yeah.
or going to markets.
And then if I'm away, she can fill orders and do stuff like that for me as well.
So you're not necessarily a slave
Exactly.
to it.
Mm-hmm.
So when did it progress from feeling like a hobby to feeling like a business?
Probably, I don't actually know. Whenever I started getting it into more retail stores, and I had to like keep up with the retail locations and, check in on them and see when they needed new stock, and I'm also like trying to sell it to people as well.
Right. So when did that transition happen? Like, were you approached by brick and mortar to come and can we have your product, or did you go to them? How did that piece
No,
work?
I've pretty much been approached by everyone that sells it has approached me. And I was actually, I had a business advisor last year, so we were working on changing up the labels and getting it into some more bigger box stores, but I don't know if I'm ready for that.
Ready to go into the bigger box stores, or
Yeah.
ready to go?
Well, yeah, I just need to make sure that I'm able to keep up with it before I spread myself too big.
Well, you're touching on an important piece with entrepreneurs right now. You're touching on this piece of, is this going to continue to serve me? And
Yeah.
is this going to continue to be what I want it to be?
Mm-hmm.
Because having this hobby, having this commercial kitchen in your backyard, it enabled you to live the life that you wanted to live with your little kids at
Yeah.
home, right? And when you start talking about being in all of these box fronts or all of these big stores, then there's demand there.
Yeah.
And then you're the person that has to make sure, which
That-
means that you have to fill those orders and you have to be making the hot sauce.
Yeah.
So it's giving you pause. Do I want to keep growing this?
Well, yeah. And yeah, am I capable of keeping up with it?
Have you found that before in your life where you feel like you're not capable for doing the things that you have found yourself? Or do you, because the way you come across is, and I mean, I don't know you that well, Billi-Jo, but you come across quite competent and quite confident. Like
Yeah.
you kind of just seem like you head into life with this attitude of, we're going to figure it out and I can do it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. So I'm going to figure it out, but I don't know how big I want to get yet. Or, I promised my dad last year that I would just do what I knew for a year. And then maybe in this, like, between January and March is the really slow time for me.
This coming, like,
Yeah.
and it will be this year
It
as
will
well.
be, yeah.
Like that, you've known that.
Yeah,
now that
because
you've been in
after
business.
Christmas, people, like, kind of stop buying, and then there's no markets, and markets start up in May. So I start, like, production again in March or whatever, but I might, in those 3 months, I might look into, like, getting back on track to where I was.
Yeah, because your life had an incredible change
Yeah. Yeah.
when John wasn't here anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So do you want to tell your story about what happened with John?
Sure. He got sick and he died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And nobody saw it coming.
No. It was about 8 hours. I took him to the hospital and he just passed away.
Yeah. And that's not supposed to happen at that phase of life.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I can't even fathom what that was like for you. But when I hear you talk about John, like I've never met him,
Yeah.
but the way you talk about him is so beautiful. And
Yeah.
and even just when you talk about that he built you this commercial kitchen, like that's amazing that
Yeah.
he was behind this dream of yours, which maybe even hadn't even become a dream. So this is a situation, you know, in life and in business where your entire world gets rocked.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened? How did you pick up the pieces?
Well, once again, my dad said, John built you that kitchen. He believed in you. He wanted you to do that because originally I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to get a job. Like, I'm not going to be able to maintain this lifestyle that we have. But in fact, I do not have to change anything. I'm going to be able to maintain the lifestyle we have with what we have. But I think just knowing that John was also passionate about it as I was, and he was proud of me. So, and my kids are too, you know.
It's like that memory of how he was in relation to Blazing Bills. It makes it okay to keep going.
Yeah.
And because of the way that you built your business to begin with, that it was a side thing that was a part of what you did, but you were doing it on, in your kitchen, which was outside your door. You didn't have to go, and the way that you were doing growth, it's made it so that you've been able to continue.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's probably a piece of why you're so careful about how much more do I want to get into this?
Well, yeah, because the business was the only thing that was on my mind for a really long time. And then John died, and then that was the only thing that was on my mind for a really long time. Like, I didn't even really care about the business, but my neighbor who helps me, she was coming over and being like, no, we got to do this, we got to do this. So she kind of was helping. And now I have my return customers and the support that the people want my product, and I'm starting to get back into wanting to get out there and put myself out there and sell the hot sauce again.
It's so funny because when something like that happens and it rocks you to the core, it changes you, and you don't really know how it's going to change you in the future. So I think just even that you kind of paused the business without pausing it because you had somebody else that was able to pick up where it was, and you didn't have to focus on growth, and you didn't have to focus necessarily on maintaining it. You could focus on what was most important, which was the kids.
Yeah.
And yourself, right?
Yeah.
And the business is still here.
Yeah.
It's almost been a year.
Yeah.
Am I right about that?
In November it'll be a year.
Yeah. So just knowing that knowing that the business is okay, even though you're not as present. And maybe it would have looked different if you had invested or poured yourself into it in the last 9 months, but that isn't what you needed to do.
Yeah.
And the business is fine.
Yeah. Instead, I just focused on keeping my kids happy and busy, and the business is fine. And it didn't really owe me anything, so it was fine for me to step back a little bit and just kind of get myself together before I jump back in.
Well, and I think it gives you don't have to resent it.
Mm-hmm.
Because this time has been so important for you and your kids.
Yeah.
Right? And being able to feel that grief and that loss and take the time that you need, I think is so important in protecting the business in the future.
Yeah.
Because I think for myself, when I've made sacrifices and nothing like what you're talking about, but where I haven't put the time into my kids in the way that I've wanted to, and then I look back, I'm like, oh, why did I waste so much time and so much energy into this rather than into my kids in the way that I wanted to?
Right.
You're not going to have that from this season.
Yeah.
Because you kept your priorities the way that you knew you needed to.
Yeah. And that's pretty much exactly it. The reason for the business was for me to be a stay-at-home mom, and so I'm just going to continue and try and do that. And I do work 6 hours a week again with support, which gives me a reason to go grocery shopping, I guess.
Yeah, it gets you out of the house.
Yeah.
Gets you out of the, gets you into town.
Yeah.
And it's another piece that's a part of keeping your life rich, I
Yeah.
guess, to some degree. Because you just went back to that. Is that right?
Yeah.
That job?
Yeah, just in September.
Yeah, because you've been off other work since,
Yeah.
like, when you started Hot Sauce, or like Blazing Bills, right? For
Yeah.
the most part?
Yeah.
So that is a way that you're kind of finding yourself again,
Yeah.
maybe?
I guess so. Yeah. Well, and now both my kids are in school, and I'm like kind of lonely during the day. Because the whole summer I just had them with me all the time.
Yeah.
And now yeah, I don't want to clean my house, so I might as well work or something.
Leave the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that you don't have to think about it.
Yeah,
And-
exactly.
Yeah. Well, and just give a mental break too.
Yeah.
Because the kind of work that you're talking about doing requires attention, right?
Yeah.
Like your mind doesn't really wander.
Yeah. Yeah, no. You get a lot of gratitude from it as well, so.
Yeah. Yeah, that piece about giving back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which seems to be a way that you live your life. Mm-hmm. Like in a way of gratitude.
Yeah.
One of the things that amazes me about you is how you're choosing to frame your life. Mm-hmm. You're so determined to have the outlook and to maintain an outlook. And it's incredible. Like after we had coffee, I was telling my husband about that story about the dog running into the neighbor's house.
Oh, yeah.
And the lady like saying whatever it was that she said to you. And she's upset. And
Yeah.
she's giving you trouble about your dog being a dog. And
Yeah.
your response to her was, yeah, I'm good. Have a great day. Like
Yeah.
you completely ignored what she was doing and what she was saying and reframed it to just, yeah, have a good day. Yeah, it's nice to see you too. And you had said your friend was like, did you not hear what that woman was saying to you? And you're like, yeah, I heard her.
Yeah.
But I was telling my husband that story because I've thought about it a lot since you told me that. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I've thought about it a lot is because it shows to me how we can choose how we're going to interact. Mm-hmm. And we can change things in a second by a positive attitude
Yeah.
and a positive spin on the situation.
Yeah.
And that's what you were doing in that situation. Because if you had listened to her and what she was saying, you could have gotten yourself into an argument.
Oh, totally.
Right? About the dog.
Yeah.
Or you could have been in a situation where now you're having it out with a neighbor. And you just completely diffuse the situation. Mm-hmm. And that really stands out to me. But I see you doing that in your entire life.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, quite often people say, like, how do you do it? And I'm like, well, either you do or you don't. Like, I don't actually know how I do it. But I do have my kids, and they, wake up every day and want breakfast, so.
So tell me some of the things that you've really held on to in the last year, almost the last year, that you feel like have enabled you to have the outlook that you have on life and to be able to show up for your kids. Like, what are the things that are driving you?
I think, well, I live in a small town, and pretty much everybody in that town kind of turned into like family. So I have a lot of people checking in on me and helping me if I need help. But I think also just, I guess because of who I am, I absorb a lot of positive people to be around me. So I hold on to my friends and my family. And I still plan all the things for my friends and my family.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a role that you serve in your network.
Yeah.
That you get people going.
Yeah.
You get people together and doing stuff.
Yeah. Like I've had people say to me, well, I'm glad your friends get you out. I'm like, I plan that.
I
get my friends out. Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's
Yeah.
funny because people are saying that because you're a widow.
Yeah.
And they're looking at you thinking, oh, I'm so glad that you have these friends that are taking care of you. And
Yeah.
what you're saying is, no, this is the way I've always been.
Yeah.
And this is the way that I still am.
Yeah. I'm the one who plans the things, and my kids and my friends, they all kind of rely on that as well. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if I don't do it, then I won't be doing anything,
Yeah.
and neither will they.
Yeah.
John used to always say that I planned his life, and I'd say, well, if I didn't plan your life, you wouldn't have one, which was very true, because he didn't make any plans, but he went with all the plans that I made.
Right. He didn't need to.
Yeah.
Because you were serving that role and he was happy to go along with it and it made his life richer.
Yeah.
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 I so appreciate people like that in my life because I often don't necessarily think about getting people together, but when I'm together with people, I'm like, oh, this feels so good. I'm so
Yeah.
enjoying this. So I think it's so important to have people that do that for us.
Yeah.
And
Well, yeah, even last winter, like after John passed away, I planned like a crib night at my house every Tuesday night. And then people would just come and play crib, and it was just my way of like having people come around, because after like the service and stuff, everybody kind of goes back to their normal lives.
Yeah.
Then yeah, my life wasn't normal anymore, so.
Well, because I think it's almost like the service is like a marker. Like it's like everybody's there showing up, bringing food, taking care, visiting, asking you what you need, not going home.
Yeah.
And then it's like the service happens and it's like everybody else goes back. But
Yeah.
your life is never going back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you found ways to keep going by getting your friends together, which is something you've always done. And building that connection and that network.
Yeah.
And knowing that you have to get up because you have 2 kids.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you felt good enough to just leave Blazing Bills.
Yeah. But I also had like a media manager that does all my social media.
Oh, okay.
So lots of people were commenting like, how are you doing that still? Like, holy man. And then I'm like, oh yeah, no, that's not me.
Yeah.
So
Well-
I think that was helpful as well, because Blazing Bills was still in the background and she was still engaging with people online, and like I was still filling orders on the website, but I didn't have to really, it didn't like go dark, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I totally know what you mean because
Yeah.
that's one of the things about being an entrepreneur is you feel like you're the person that's driving the business.
Yes.
And that you have to keep driving it. But
Yeah.
what's beautiful, even though this business was still in its infancy, you could take a back seat and let things just happen, which I think
Yeah.
speaks to the way you built it up.
Yeah.
You know, you had somebody that was doing things for you in the socials. You had your neighbor that was coming over and filling orders, and because of the way you've always cared for people just stepped in and cared for you. Mm-hmm. And Blazing Bills was continuing to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people are like, "How are you doing this?" That makes so much sense to me. That people would be like, "What? What are you doing?"
Oh, yeah.
Not
Yeah.
realizing that you had a group of people that were supporting you and doing it.
Yeah.
So you kind of lost the joy for Blazing Bills initially. Did you ever wonder if it would come back?
Well, kind of. Like, I've had a lot of people asking, like, if there's any new sauces coming, which I'm like, oh, I don't know. I've got 10 that I'm trying to keep up with right now. But I do feel like it's coming back now that, well, because I said to my dad, I was like, but I work alone. And he was like, well, no, you don't. And then when I went back to my first market, I think it was in Easter, and everybody missed me. And I was like, hey, I don't work alone. Like, all these people are like market people as well. So I feel like now that I'm back in the market scene, because for the whole summer, I kind of just took my kids camping, and, you know, we went to Niagara Falls and did just pretty much had fun the whole time. So at the beginning of September, I started going back to markets when people see me, they're happy to see me, and then I can promote my product, and I feel like it's coming back.
Well, you've said a couple things that I just want to draw out. First of all, you said the piece about you are not alone. Like, even though you are an entrepreneur and you have your own business and you don't necessarily work with other businesses, when you show up at those markets, you are with other business people, and they're kind of like your market family. So they know you. And I think that speaks to the way that you are as a person. Like, you're very upfront and outgoing, and you're very open.
Yeah.
And so I think I could see that people would really feel connected around that piece. But the other piece that I want to draw out is when you go back and how that feels to go back.
Yeah.
Right? To go back to the markets and to see the people, and knowing that you've taken time.
Yeah.
Right? Like spending all summer with your kids.
Yeah. Well, and I have a lot of people that when they see me, they're like, I just want to hug you. And I'm like, sure. I'm like, yeah, I'll take the hug. But I don't really feel like I need it as much as I did in the beginning. Like, of course, I love knowing that people love me and they want to hug me, but I don't feel like I need people to be feeling sorry for me.
Right. Did you feel that way initially, that you wanted people to feel sorry for you?
No, I just more so felt like I wanted people to be around me.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't want to be alone.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. Because the person that you're always with isn't there anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, nobody could do anything to change it, but...
It's just nice to not be alone.
Exactly.
Like, to physically have someone
there. Yeah.
Yeah. So now you're starting to feel interest in picking Blazing Bills back up.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that look like for you?
Well, I signed up for another food expo, so I'm going to go to that and promote my product again to, like, potential buyers. And that's at the end of October. It's through the Columbia Basin Trust in the cusp this year. And I've done it 2 years in a row now, and there are just a whole bunch of foodies that are also trying to sell their product. So I'm going to do that. And then I've inquired again about changing my labels, talking to a local artist, and he was helping me in the past, and then I kind of put a halt on it. So
you had all these things in the works, and even though you set it aside, you can pick it back up.
Well, yeah.
You know, I think we can tell ourselves, and I think we can hear messages that that's not okay. That if we leave things, that it's going to be the demise of it.
Yeah.
Or we're going to wreck our business, or there's not going to be anything left.
Yeah.
But that's not how it is.
No.
And I think that's an incredible part of your story, is that you did leave Blazing Bills for a bit on the back burner, and you don't have to feel guilt about that piece.
Yeah.
Your priorities were what your priorities were.
Yeah. And I still think that, like, my reality now is that my kids are with me all the time. So at the markets, I've set up like a little lemonade stand for them to sell lemonade while I'm just to give them a purpose while they're there. Otherwise, they are just wanting to do everything else. But also that they're more important than, selling my product. So if they're with me, then I guess I'm just happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, is that something you always knew?
Yeah, but I think before, when I was going to markets, like, I would book Christmas markets away, and it was like my weekend away from the kids.
Yeah, like, oh, I get a break.
I'm going to Lethbridge for the weekend. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But now I plan them around taking them with me.
Yeah.
Except for my dad. He'll watch my kids too.
But your perspective on family life has changed. Mm-hmm. Because I think when something like that happens, you just have a different perspective. Things just shift.
Yeah.
You just value things in a different way.
Yeah.
And so now you make room for your kids to come. Mm-hmm. Do they like it? Like, what is their
Oh, yeah,
perspective?
they like it, but they seem to think that I should pay them every time they're there, which I'm like... Yeah.
Are you like, well, you have to sell lemonade if you want to get
yeah,
paid.
Exactly. So, yeah, we were doing that, but then they're kind of lazy lemonade sellers also.
Right. They're like, we're just going to go check out that other booth.
Exactly. We're going to be over here, so it's a lot of work for me, but I've told them, I'm like, the things are going to change next year. Like, we'll still do the lemonade, but if you're not selling it, you're not getting the money for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and And I think that's just a part of how things change, right? And how
Yeah.
kids grow. And so with going to this food expo that's coming up at the end of the month, last year when you had gone, you were looking at moving into a bigger store. Then you kind of pulled the brakes for obvious reasons with John passing
Yeah.
and just wanting to make sure that you're able to maintain it. So how are you feeling now that you're getting a renewed passion for this? It sounds like you don't have any new recipes, or do you have some that are kind of percolating in the back? I guess
Well,
I'm asking you two questions. Do you got new recipes coming out, and do you feel different about going into this next season? Like, are you thinking that you're going to make a new leap?
I feel like I don't have any new recipes coming out, but I'm sure that I will start thinking of some. But I feel like once I get through like I'm fully stocked now, so once I get through the Christmas season, because that's a busy one for us. And I didn't do any Christmas markets last year because John passed away.
Yeah.
I feel like once that's done and I get a chance to take a break after Christmas, I will start looking into getting back in touch with my business advisor and seeing what's next. And she's really good at helping me stay on track and giving me like tasks, because of course I've also never ran a business before.
Right.
Yeah.
So your business advisor kind of helps you to shape how to do business. Is that
Yeah.
kind
And getting my sell sheets ready and my product like pricing and all that stuff. So I did learn a lot, but then I almost feel like I need a refresher on it.
Yeah, well, you've had a bit of a hiatus, which sounds like it was the perfect thing to do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, okay, if I'm jumping back into this, I need to kind of get my bearings again.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you have hopes for what this will be? Like, is that something you daydream about, or are you still
I kind
really
of
in
right
the
now,
present?
I'm just hoping that it's going to be enough to like, so my kids and I can continue having fun and like, weekends away and a little extra for vacation, because we like to do that too.
Right.
But I think my focus will be on my kids for a long time.
So there's kind of two pieces that you're pulling out. On one side, it's really about your kids. Mm-hmm. And that has really hit home in the last year.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like that was always a priority right from the get-go. I mean, you started Blazing Bills because you wanted to be at home with your kids.
Yeah.
So it's not like that priority is shift, but it sounds like it really cemented this last year that you needed to be there.
Yeah.
And so that part's always going to be a part of Blazing Bills. But then there's this other piece of you, it sounds like, that is like, what could I do with this?
Yeah.
Where could this go? And it's not just about taking care of the kids and making sure you have money for living and for holidays and that piece, but it's also about what could this become?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like this summer I took my kids to like a music festival, and we did a bunch of stuff like that where I'm like, I could rent a booth at these festivals. And then that would pay for our tickets. And then we could camp on site, and then Blazing Bills is like paying for the weekend away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally know what you mean.
So I'd like to just maybe take advantage of that right now while my kids want to be with me.
Yes.
And then, once they're tired of camping with me or whatever, then I'll just, okay, next level.
So in the meantime, you're looking at ways that allow this type of life that you want to live with your kids. Mm-hmm. So music festivals and selling Blazing Bills at musical festivals.
Yeah.
And doing markets in towns that your kids want to visit.
Yeah.
Like that kind of a piece. And then when your kids are older, maintain and grow the business enough so that when your kids are older and kind of doing their own thing, you can kind of nurture Blazing Bills in a new way and really amp it up.
Yeah. Or, I mean, even if that comes sooner and I feel confident, then I might jump into it sooner, but I'm just still not quite sure. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, if anything, the last year has showed you how uncertain things are.
Mm-hmm. I've really learned when things are out of my control, they're definitely out of my control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much do you think that will shape the way you do business? That knowledge, not so much the circumstance, because I think whenever we have circumstances like this, they automatically impact our life and shape the way we go. But what about that understanding of things are uncertain? How does that shift the way you approach business?
I think I just don't really have big expectations. And so then I don't feel let down when something doesn't go my way.
Right. So it's like a safeguard.
But it certainly doesn't make me feel like I can't do it. Like, I still feel like, okay, well, that one didn't work out, but moving on to the next.
That the way that entrepreneurs work
Yeah.
is we do things and they don't always turn out, but that isn't something that makes us stop. We're just like, oh, okay, pivot time.
Yeah.
Right? Now we're going to try something new. Oh, that didn't work. Oh, okay, now this did work. Okay, let's do
Yes,
more of that,
exactly.
right? Like
Yeah.
it's this constant challenge of exploring and discovering and trying it out and figuring out new ways to do things and kind of stay on our toes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you find that there's a piece that makes you just want to hold on so tight?
Well, I don't know. I kind of feel like I was set up by having Blazing Bills. Like John kind of set me up before he passed away, because had I not had that to fall back on, then my life would be very different right now. So, yeah.
I just want to pause on that because that is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Because he didn't know.
No.
Right?
Nobody did.
Nobody did.
No.
So whatever led him to be all gung-ho to help you and to support you.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like when you got into it, it was a bit like, well, what? Now there's a commercial kitchen? I guess I have to do this. You know, like it sounds like there may have been a piece of hesitancy, but just that, like, he must have been pretty resolved. Like, commercial kitchens that's not cheap, you know?
No. Well, yeah. And he worked 2 weeks away and he was home for 2 weeks. So, yeah, on his days home, he was building the kitchen.
Yeah.
And it is very nice. Like, it's a beautiful kitchen.
Yeah.
And it's right from home. And I owe nothing on it now. So it's really, I mean, I guess it's still kind of like a hobby, but it's also a passion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it started off as a hobby and it's a passion, but you've also got the foundation of something that could be really big. Mm-hmm. And I love what you said about how he set it up to take care of you.
Yeah.
Without even knowing that he was setting it up to take care of you, and it's taking care of you in some way.
Yeah.
And
and I find too, like, now that my kids are back in school, it is something for me to put my mind on. Like, yeah, because after he passed away, when they didn't want to go to school, I was like, yeah, well, don't go to school. Like, you can miss school this year. I don't care.
Yeah.
But now I have computer work that I need to do and stuff that I'm invoicing and, checking in on retailers and stuff like that. So that does take up a lot of my time, which I'm thankful for.
Yeah, it's a source of distraction.
Yeah.
But it's a good source of distraction.
Because it is motivational as well, and it keeps me feeling like I'm productive. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and it gives you that, like, just how, you were getting up for your kids. Mm-hmm. Like, somebody's got to get up and make sure there's breakfast because your kids were little.
Yeah.
And then this piece around now Blazing Bills is like, it's keeping you focused. It's keeping you motivated. It's keeping you having something that you need to do. I just find it so incredible how you talk about Blazing Bills. I love that she's a person and that she's a she. Like, I was like, yeah, she is. It's a she. This ain't no male business.
Right.
But I just keep thinking, what a gift.
Yeah.
And to have a partner that believed in it and was willing to invest in it in that way, and the business has given you a piece of that, like that assurance that you can do it.
Yeah.
Or that you can turn to it and it'll be
or
there.
that I can be the boss of myself, like boss myself around as well, because, there's lots of times where it's like, oh my gosh, it's 30 degrees out, like I'm going to go to the beach. But then it's like, no, you got stuff you have to do in the kitchen.
Right.
So.
Well, because ultimately it stops with you. If you don't do it, it's not happening.
Yeah.
So you feel the weight of the responsibility of having the business.
Yeah. And when I'm dealing with produce, like the produce is all fresh, so it has to be done
Right.
before it, goes bad.
You can't just have it sit there. You
No.
actually have to do the
You actually
work
have
right
to do
away.
it. Yeah.
So has that been something that's been a bit of a saving grace?
I think so, because I place my produce order usually on a Wednesday, and it arrives on the Thursday, and then I have to like do it on the Friday.
Right.
And I quite often on the Friday don't want to do it, but I have to.
Yeah.
So I think it's good because it keeps me busy, like, and accountable to myself.
Yeah. Well, and as so much of business, so much of owning your own business is that you get to dictate. You get to dictate what the work looks like and what your life's like and how you're doing things, but it's also all on you. So if you're not doing things, maybe nobody else is. So this piece that Blazing Bills is giving you in this last bit is it's kept you up.
Yeah.
It's gotten you off the couch. It's kept you accountable. Because grief is a funny thing.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, you know this better than anyone probably in this room, but just that Blazing Bills gets to be an outlet for you. It gets to be a place to direct your energy, and it can be a place of joy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think seeing people enjoying my product really helps me to want to continue to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because was that a part of why you started it in the first place?
Yeah.
Because, I mean...
But I just wanted to give it away. I was just like, oh my God, try this. It's so good. And then
Yeah.
people were trying it, but then they wanted to buy it after that.
Yeah, you were happy to give it away and
Yeah.
just be like, let's have a party.
Exactly.
Eat a bunch of hot sauce.
Yeah.
Have you always, you said before that you were buying a lot of hot sauce, like artisan hot sauce before you started Blazing Bills. Did you grow up loving hot food? Like, where did this come from?
No, not really. Me and John got together when I was 17, so I was quite young. And I remember he would order banana peppers on the pizza. And I'd be like, oh, those are too spicy. Yeah, and then I just learned to love it. So then I liked banana peppers. And then I guess after I had my daughter, I started liking hot sauce.
Okay.
But then I would find different flavored ones online that you could order, or yeah.
And so your daughter is your older,
Yeah.
right? So it started a while ago where you were getting interested in this. And...
Yeah, she just turned 9.
Okay. So 9 years you've been loving hot sauce.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's really an industry that it's kind of blown up like craft beer has.
Kind of, yes.
You know, there's a thing about it. Like, I know with my kids, that's what they want to put in their dad's Christmas stocking is hot sauce. And whenever we go to a store and there's a different kind of hot sauce, they're like, we have to get this hot sauce.
Yeah.
And they don't all like their food spicy, but I've got definitely a few that just love to load all sorts of different hot sauce on. So I think it's a great time for a business like this.
Well, and hot sauce is a good gift, too, because even if you don't like it, someone will.
When your daughter was born, you probably never in a million years thought you'd have a commercial kitchen.
Oh,
making
no.
hot sauce.
No.
Right? But I think it's amazing when business grows out of a passion because it's easier to maintain.
Yeah.
Like, because you have a love for what it is.
And I think that was exactly it for the past, the 2 years before John passed away, is that it was just always on my mind, and I would bounce ideas off of him, and he would always support me. So then I was always just thinking about the reason why I love doing it. So it wasn't even like a job.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get back there.
Yeah, because you're not there yet, hey?
Yeah,
where
not
you
quite.
feel like you have the excitement for it.
Yeah.
I had a similar experience with that in my own life where it was related to counseling. And I was all geared up and excited about my private practice. And then when I was diagnosed with cancer, I didn't want anything to do with it after. And it was so weird for me because I was like, why don't I want to even do this? And I couldn't really put my finger on what had changed, but I just felt so different. And it hasn't been until the last year where I've even been interested in it. And I thought, you know what? I don't even know if I want to do this. This is how I was feeling. I don't even know if I want to go back into private practice, but I just decided to do it, like almost on a whim. You know how sometimes, I don't know if you're like this, Billi-Jo, but sometimes
Yeah.
I don't think things through.
I never think things through.
I get this idea, and then all of a sudden I'm doing it, and I'm like, why? Why didn't I even think about, like, why didn't I spend time thinking about whether or not I wanted to do this? So I just started doing private practice again, and then what I discovered was, oh, I actually still like this. And not only do I like it, I actually love it. And I found in the last little bit that the more I've done it and the more I've invested in it, the more it's given back to me.
Yeah.
And I'm falling in love with it again.
Yeah.
But if you had asked me like a year after my cancer diagnosis, I would have told you, oh, I'll never do therapy again.
Yeah.
Like I was so adamant that I would never do that. So it's bizarre to me, but I think it just speaks to some things that happen in life. We just need time,
Yeah.
and we just don't judge yourself too harshly. Like that's the message that I was telling myself. Like, don't even worry about it. Who cares if you never want to do therapy again?
Yeah.
Like you don't owe it to anybody.
Yeah.
You don't owe it. Like you don't have to make blazing bills.
Yeah. Exactly.
You don't owe the world any more hot sauce.
Yeah.
And I think that just taking that non-judgmental stance for myself, it allowed me to, when I did go back, I felt free in it.
Yeah.
Like, and then all of a sudden, like I said, I didn't think about it, but I was just doing it. And then the more I did it, the more I was like, oh, I actually love this.
Yeah.
And this isn't going to get stolen from me, this passion for this.
Exactly. I can put myself into it. Well, and I also find that lots of times I'm trying to remind myself that I'm better than I think I am, you know? Like, you're okay. Just get up and do it. Or like, yeah.
So what do you mean when you say that you're better than you think you are? What are you talking about?
Well, because quite often I'll like want to lay on the couch all day and do absolutely nothing because, you know, I've gained a bunch of weight and I'm a widow and I'm just like, but then I'm like, okay, no, like get up, get yourself dressed, you'll feel better. So
Yeah.
I think just talking myself up as opposed to, not helps and staying
Yeah.
positive, you know.
Well, and you've been doing that.
Yeah.
You have been telling yourself to do things.
Yeah.
And like that's one of the things that stands out to me about you is this adamant decision that you're going to move forward in a positive way. Mm-hmm. And it does not matter what gets thrown at you, no matter how awful.
Yeah.
You're going to keep moving forward because that's how you do life and that's how you're going to show up.
Yeah.
Like that's how you seem to me. So
well, I think that's true because I don't think it could get any worse. So, you know, I will hold my kids really close, but I also let them do whatever they want.
yeah.
Even though, like, my boy's at a sleepover this weekend, and I'm like, are you sure you want to go? Do you want me to pick you up tomorrow?
Right.
Yeah. And then he's like, no, I think I want to stay 4 days. I'm like, oh, you can't stay 4 days. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because you just want to hold so tight.
Yeah. And he did promise me that he'd sleep with me, like, even when he's married, so.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But he's growing up, too, and I need to let them live as well.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's why you raised them. Like,
Yeah.
That's why you had them. Was
Exactly.
So that they could be these people and so that you could be in relationship with them, but also so they could be in relationship with others.
Yeah.
So there's this part of letting go.
Yeah. Well, and also, like, allowing them to know that they can trust other people, you know, because we've got a lot of people that are helping us.
Yeah.
And they need to know that I'm not always going to be, because Otto's biggest fear was, like, what's going to happen when you die? And I'm like, well, I'm going to try my hardest not to, but yeah, you're going to be taken care of no matter what.
Because it rocks their security. We know we're going to lose our parents,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We don't necessarily expect we're going to lose our partner or our spouse.
No. Well, and I think the whole idea was that we would both die at the same time. Like, you know, like we were set up for one of us to die.
Right.
But really the idea was that, when we die, the kids are taken care of. But I never ever thought that one of us would die first. So, yeah.
Well, and I think we have to think, I think we have to live our life thinking that that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Because it would paralyze us.
Oh.
If we
Yeah.
knew the reality of what could happen or the potential, it would paralyze us from doing so many things, and we have to be able to live.
Yeah.
But then you have this little boy who his whole world gets rocked.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you show up for him?
Yeah. Well, even right after John died and the doctor told me that he died, and I said, well, now what? He's like, you can just go home. I was like, no, I can't. Like, I have 2 kids at home. But the reality is I have to go home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to keep being there
Yeah.
and showing up and being emotionally present and being okay enough so that they know that just like you are getting through, they can get through.
Right. And I think that because my background was in early childhood education, I know that the environment they're around and the energy they're around kind of absorbs into them. So as long as I stay positive and it helps them. Yeah.
So was a part of this faking it till you made it?
Yep.
Do you feel like you're still faking it?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. If my kids see me like crying, they'll be like, is it 'cause you miss Dad? And then I'll say, yeah. And they're like, I know. But yeah.
Well, because they feel it too.
Yeah.
So they understand that grief.
They
of
do.
feeling the loss.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. But there's lots of times, well, even my boy, he'll say to me, I don't really remember Dad. And I say, well, let me help you. I've got all these videos and all these photos and, and we talk about them all the time.
Yeah.
So I think that helps too.
Yeah, I think it does. I think because you're continuing to control that narrative of who Dad is,
Yeah.
And what Dad meant
Yeah.
and what parts of you get from Dad.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is a beautiful piece. Well,
Yeah.
and I think even just, how kids process things and how we as adults process things, like they're going to look back at this season throughout their life.
Oh, yeah.
And the way that you've chosen to come through this is going to stand out for them. Like they're going to take things from that, and it's not just that this season is shaping their life, but the way that you've managed this as their mother is going to shape the way that they do their life.
Yeah.
And I think it's a testament to your positivity and your mindset in this.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I don't let them see me like really be like crumbling down, but they certainly see me get up every day. But, sometimes when they're not there, I do stay on the couch.
Yeah. Well, because that's how it is.
Yeah.
Like some days we just need to be on the couch.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And sometimes
Before. Exactly.
Yeah, even before. Even before John was gone.
Exactly.
But we need to just be present.
Yeah.
And be where we're at.
Yeah.
And I think it's remarkable that you're moving forward in your life the way that you are, and how you're choosing to show up for your kids, and how you're choosing to show up for Blazing Bills in the future. Like, I know you've put it on the side, and I just think that's incredible, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs feel like they're a captive to their business, that they're a slave to it, and that they don't have the choice. They've built this, they got to keep building it, they got to maintain it. And you knew that you didn't need to do that. And it was going to be okay.
Yeah.
And I love that about the way that you're going about that. And it's exciting to me because I don't know where Blazing Bills is going, but I'm excited because I'm like, this is amazing.
Thank you.
You've created this out of your own head. Like, because there's a lot of businesses that aren't based out of your own, the business owner's own creativity. Like,
yeah.
This is from scratch and it's yours. You're the Bill in Blazing Bills.
Oh, yeah. Well, and sometimes I was going off like colors, like when I'm thinking about the recipes. So I want like a different color. Like my horseradish one is white.
Oh, okay.
So I was trying to think of like white things that could go in it.
Fun.
Yeah. And then I would just think about it for like a month and then just throw it all into a pot, make it, and hope that it turned out good, and they always did.
Did you ever have a time when you're like, oh my God, this is not good? Or was it not so
Well,
much that this is not good, but it's, oh, I need to tweak? Because I'm sure the tweaking part was always a part of it.
I have had that, and we've tweaked. I like keep lots of notes, so I tweaked it on like the first batch, so then it still turned out good. But like the avocado one, I don't really like that one, but lots of people do. But I don't like cooked avocado, I don't think. I don't know.
Okay, I see. So sometimes you create stuff knowing that it's not for you, but other people will love it because people are different.
Yeah, well, I really liked it at the beginning, and then I was just like, now I can't even barely sell it. But
so
people want it. Yeah.
So will you take it off your...
Probably not, because people still want it. Like, it still sells.
Interesting.
It's just not one that I would recommend. Yeah.
Bill would not recommend this.
Yes, exactly. She doesn't recommend it, but I mean, on fish tacos or stuff like that, it still is really good.
It's got its place, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah. Funny.
It's just not one that you would use every day.
Well, and what's interesting to me about Blazing Bills, about your business, is like you're pretty new to all of business, not just the creating piece, but the whole thing is new
Yeah.
from an entrepreneurial perspective. Like this is only 3 years old. You weren't in business before. Do you come from a family of entrepreneurs, or are you kind of the first?
Yeah, I'm the first.
I've been in all these conversations I've been having. It stood out to me. I never realized how many connections entrepreneurs had to other family members that were entrepreneurs until these conversations. And you're a bit of an anomaly in that you're in business and no one in your family is in business. Or
Yeah.
you haven't necessarily seen that.
Yeah. I do, I like have some mentors that sell hot sauce that I have met along the way, and I will quite often message them, and they're like not in the direct area, so they're more than happy to help out.
Yeah, it's not a competition because
Yeah.
you're not at the same market.
Yeah.
Right.
But then I've had some that don't sell hot sauce but sell other products, and they don't want to help, like they don't want to share anything.
Weird. Is
Right?
that weird to you? Or
It
is
is
that
weird.
just weird to me?
Yeah. It is weird.
Well, I mean, I think it would be especially weird for you because you're so giving and open.
Yeah. I'm
Right?
like, I'm not even making what you're making. But
Yeah, like there's enough for both of us.
yeah, exactly.
Like people
And
put
I'm more than happy. Like a guy from Creston called me the other day, and he said that his son wanted to start a hot sauce company. Was just wondering if he could have a look around, and I was like, oh, anything, yeah. I'll share all my tricks with him, but
Yeah, just not my recipes.
yeah, no, he's not going to
course.
make a dill pickle one.
Yeah. Well, and I think that speaks to the way that you choose to live your life. Mm-hmm. You know, the way that you choose to be positive and be open and see people at their best, right? Like that, all of those attitudes foster connection over competition,
Yeah,
and recognizing that I don't have to be in competition. There's enough for me.
yeah,
I'm going to be taken care of, and I'm going to be successful in the parts that I'm going to be successful in. I don't have to worry about it.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, and it's amazing that you have mentors that are kind of showing you the ropes.
yeah, yeah. Well, and like the guy who owns the Beyond Hot store in Lethbridge, he is like a wealth of hot sauce knowledge. So any question I have, he'll help me.
Because he sells all hot sauce. Is like his
That's all he sells is hot sauce, yeah. And then there's like a guy on the coast, his name is Island Chef, but he also sells hot sauce, and he's also willing to share any information.
Well, and I think when you have mentors like that, you're more willing to mentor others.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're like, these people invested in me, these people gave things to me, and you see the benefit that had for you and for your business. So it's easy to want to do that for others.
Yeah.
Because you realize you are where you are because of the people.
Yeah. Oh,
that
totally.
That came behind you or
Yeah.
supported you or stood beside you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is, I think, what it means to do business in a small community.
Yeah.
Because we need each other.
Yeah. Well, and now my brand is recognized around town, which is also nice. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. My husband's a hot sauce guy, and yeah, he's like, oh, Blazing Bills.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the bill. Right. And I mean, your kitchen's in Moye, but Moye and Cranbrook are so close
Yeah.
to each other, right? It's a lot of people that live in Moye come to Cranbrook for things. So it probably feels like it's an extension of your community, and Moye is your neighborhood to some degree.
Yeah.
I just want to say, Billi-Jo, I really appreciate how vulnerable you were today in sharing this very private piece of your life and a very difficult part of your life. It's humbling that you would be so open to share your story. I love your story because when I hear it, the part that resounds for me is how much of an overcomer you are and how willing you are to put yourself out there and find joy, even in situations that have little or no joy at all.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful to watch, and it's encouraging, and it's inspiring, and it also leaves me with this like really subtle feel of excitement, because I'm like, what is she gonna do? Like, where are you gonna go with Blazing Bills? Because I just don't know. I don't know what you're gonna do with this, but I think there's so much potential, and I think there's so much opportunity. But I also know that it's not the most important thing in your life.
Yeah.
So it leaves me with excitement because I don't know what you're going to do, and I think that's really cool. Because I don't know if this is something that you're going to run with and blow up, or if it's something that is just going to continue to provide for you and your family. It gave you some consistency this last year.
Yeah.
And this sense of, I got to do this. This is my future.
Yeah. And it's good too because it wasn't too much, but it was still enough to keep me accountable, but then also something I could do from afar.
Yeah, there was some freedom there for you to really take time when you needed it.
Yeah.
And you still had to show up, but you didn't have to show up every day because it was your business. You didn't just get a week of grievance.
No.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
you could take as much time as you needed
Yeah.
as long as you were still showing up occasionally or had other people that were working for you doing things. So.
Yeah, and checking my emails and doing
Yeah.
As long as I kept up on that stuff then, which I did.
I'm excited because I don't know where this is going, but I feel like wherever it goes, it's going to be very intentional.
Yeah.
And it's going to be positive for you.
And it's not going away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that has really been obvious in this last year. Because if there was ever a time it was going away, it would have been in the last 11 months, right?
Yeah.
And it's here.
It's here. I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for chatting with me. I so appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
And here's to more years of Blazing Bills.
Yeah.